In the end, it's not the debate itself, but those preventing it that are truly un-American. Honest listening, and more important, honest questioning, is the foundation of the American experiment. We must listen to each other with renewed ears and speak out with passion, while also recognizing the difference between anger and truth. Unfortunately, there are many in Washington who understand that honest debates will pull back the curtain on the scam they've been perpetrating. They promise transparency, but instead deliver 10,000-page legislative bills that have to be passed before being read or even fully understood. They promise openness, but then move quickly under the cover of darkness to further their agendas. In March 2008, President George W. Bush told us that Bear Stearns was too big to fail. If we didn't act to save it before the end of the week, very bad things would happen. So we acted. Since then, the list of banks that are too big to fail has grown in excess of 500, and the taxpayer exposure from government bailouts now exceeds $12 trillion. Worse, those who are in charge of managing all the exposure have already proven their incompetence. Perhaps you've forgotten about the House members that once bounced more than 8,331 checks at their own personal bank, the House Bank, forcing it to close due to their own incompetence and greed. Does it strike anyone else as arrogant that the same politicians who couldn't run their own bank are now vested in more than 500 banks, including some of the largest ones in the country? Have you forgotten how our leaders looked us in the eye and pledged, we're going to fix this house bank problem, only to promptly bounce an additional 4,325 checks? Have you forgotten how no bounce check or overdraft fees were ever charged? Because the house bank didn't impose those pesky and expensive fees that you and I would have to pay given the exact same circumstances. Does anybody seriously doubt that if it had been a private bank and not members of Congress who had written 12,000 bad checks, there would have been never-ending televised hearings, perp walks, and prison sentences? Would it surprise you to learn that not one of the public servants who dishonored their office was ever sent to jail, but the House Sergeant-at-Arms, who took the blame for them, was sentenced to 24 months? Of course not, because we've learned that politicians aren't like you and me. They're like some alien life form who believes that they're of higher intelligence. They don't have to live by the same rules, and they have no personal shame. The same politicians who couldn't operate their own bank now regularly appear on television to tell you and me that they can solve the economic crisis. More lies from politicians who don't think twice about telling them. Politicians who try to frame the ongoing debate as one about increasing regulation on Wall Street and taming out-of-control bankers. But so much more than your 401k is at stake. This isn't a debate about money. It's a life and death struggle for personal freedom and national liberty. The economy may be the vessel, but it is sailing us towards a complete reshaping of America. Wake up! The chains of economic slavery have been forged by both parties and many presidents, but they are about to snap shut around the necks of our children and grandchildren. We cannot let our politicians' actions continue to defy sanity, or our collective inaction to continue to define insanity any longer. We must try something new, peaceful, yet pointed action. Our country's circumstances are too grave and the stakes too high for us to sit silently with the hope that somehow those who have fought for so long against our founding ideals will somehow realize the error of their ways. And if you think that things would be different if your party was in power, or that things will be different now because your side won, think again. Both parties have betrayed our founding principles, and we have lost sight of the fact that the only side that matters is the one in step with the principles of the Republic. I am convinced that the source of our collective silence in the face of growing tyranny is not a failure to appreciate the importance of the fight or the threat that we're facing. It is not a result of laziness or lack of patriotism either. Our silence is due to our failure to see any problem or solution beyond partisan politics. No longer. The light of common sense belongs to all of us, from every party. Let us use it to uncover the challenges, treachery, and truth.